textures. Let us see game options. So general, we are not automatically cleaning anything. Texture group, we have only default texture group like standard, nothing special. This is list of all our pictures, which most are not textures, they are plain sprite. Let us see, this is input. Like this is not textures, there are clear sprite, there are buttons, and what we are utilizing is just random noise texture. This one, there are colors we see. This is the when texturing, I'm using only this part, and later on it is calculated. So this is 0, 1, 0, 1 value for the UV coordinates, and all others are calculated from the position of this texture. This is not used now, this is not used now, this is unused, this is unused. So let us see, this is texture size 24 by 24. Our texture page size is 256. Yep. So this fits exactly, and I can cheat it without using texture setting because it's gonna take separate page anyway. So let us see, we have a helper here. It's a texture, and now we're gonna copy it. Obviously we are not using it anywhere, and let us see what's gonna happen. So as we see, after adding a new texture, random noise texture is gone, so everything looks very flat. Maybe it's beautiful, but anyway, it shouldn't look that way. Random noise texture is not read correctly, and in this case, at least we see something. So there are anything to see, but in the worst case, because it is quite random, and if I copy more of them, it will be worse. We're gonna see only those points. As we see, they have wrong color, so something is messed up with VAD file during texture compression and feeding the GPU RAM, so video RAM, something like that. And this is not the worst case I see. And people are complaining that sprites disappears or they are partially visible or something like that, but let's change it back. So let's delete it, this unused picture, and let's go to the gameplay. So as we see, our noise texture is back. Magic. Like how they interfere? But I have even a better trick. So now let's see the better trick. What happens in the current runtime? So we are working at 226, 227, 227. Okay, we are working 227 because on 226 it was even worse. So let us see. We are creating a sprite, which is a standard empty sprite, 64 by 64. And let's give it a separate texture page. It is not referenced anywhere in the code. It is a generic name. It's empty sprite. It doesn't have anything. It has own separate texture page. And now let's see what's gonna happen. So this is what we see. As we see, there are some letters. So something works. Probably our camera works, but we see nothing. Many work, so the sprites are loaded correctly. Those sprites that are not textures. Okay, know something. Let's see the camera. Let's see colliders. No, because they're using helper texture or some other. However, helpers are loaded. Just it is a wrong texture, wrong color. But let's live with that. Everything exists. We can go to the object editor and we are gonna see we are editing now object number 5. It has gizmo, just wrong texture. And we see that the shader works correctly. So everything else is simply void, just but by adding this one sprite with own texture page. So if I delete it, we're gonna have our game back. And I was investigating this particular issue for 3 days, trying to prefetch, reload, use dynamic and all other stuff I can use in GameMaker, checking the code and put it in developer mode and debugging it and the new runtime that should work on every platform is not working correctly in Windows. And what I have here is i5, so potato, and old stable GTX 1060 or something like that. So we can't complain that this number of graphic I'm loading here is too much or too big or whatever. Just because I were making on this potato far bigger projects previously, and it is what we get now. So something is wrong about runtime VAT file creation, and yeah, I already submitted this issue, and probably they're gonna do something with this, because video game without video, like, it doesn't have a point. Yeah. So I'm complaining about the graphic. I deleted this sprite, and yeah, what I found during this investigation: if I remove all the sprites and load them from files, so during gameplay, like in the normal big engines we used to do for production, not for prototyping, so it doesn't work either. And some of the sprites I loaded, because I have set texture page 250 size square, I loaded without pointing that this is the texture, just as a sprite. And it works because they have a own page anyway. So you can use sprites without pointing it is a texture with separate texture page if it is exact the size of the texture page. So you can cheat the game maker this way. You doesn't need to point that this is a texture, and I use this method. And I couldn't get some textures to work. So if I used over a 4 texture page, 5th was not loaded, and everything else was moved in the virtual memory, this video memory. Yeah, virtual, because previously we have this video memory as fake memory in the RAM, but it was moved by the size of the texture somewhere else, and it was returning empty pointers, so everything black. There is a function that automates it, so if everything is black, it's black. So the GPU can work faster with some redundant colors, as we see here. So those textures can be far smaller size and it will change nothing. So something happened in the runtime. They did for the game maker somewhere in November. I don't know exactly when, but after some updates, as we see, video can go wrong. And I see people complaining that doesn't know what is going on with the sprites disappearing and so on. So that's the controllable environment, how to replicate the issue, where it exists and how it works. Mostly for what we can see in GameMaker. I'm not about to check the whole graphic pipeline for this, but any workaround I found for now is to swap and reuse textures that we have. So other cheating on memory or generating them in flights from surfaces, because surfaces magically works, and here we have a lot of surfaces, so normal, simplified, normals, helpers and so on. So I check the usage of VRAM in my graphic cards and we are under the 10% of the capacity, so that's not the issue. Issue is not with the graphic card, something goes wrong with the runtime. Yeah, end of the grumbling.